स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपां साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथामृतं तं सजीवं साधवैकं सावधूतं परिजनासक्तं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च विष्णुपादाय कृष्णकृष्णाय श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरकृष्णे नमः हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते सप्तकांचन गौरांगी श्रीराधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरि लीलाचल निवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्र सुभद्राभ्यां श्रीजगन्नाथाय ते नमः वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरो दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधुर्यं श्रीचैतन्यं Hare Krishna. So today we will begin our discussion on Śrī Īśopaniṣad. Let us begin. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Mudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam nevavashishyate. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because He is completely perfect, all emanations from Him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself, because He is the complete whole. Even though so many units emanate from Him, He remains the complete balance. But the complete whole or the supreme absolute truth is the complete personality of God. Realization of impersonal Brahman or of Paramatma, the Super Soul, is incomplete realization of the absolute completion. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Satchidananda Vigraha. Realization of the impersonal Brahman is a realization of his Sat feature or his aspect of it. And Paramatma realization is the realization of his Sat and Chit features, his aspects of eternity and knowledge. But realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the realization of all the transcendental features, Sat, Chit, and Aspects. When one realizes the Supreme Person, he realizes these aspects of the absolute truth in their completeness. Vigraha means form. Thus, the complete whole is not formless. If he were formless, or if he were less than his creation in any other way, he could not be complete. A complete whole must contain everything, both within and beyond our experience. Otherwise, he cannot be complete. The complete whole, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has immense potencies, all of which are as complete as he is. Thus, this phenomenal world is also complete in itself. The 24 elements of which this material world is a temporary manifestation are arranged to produce everything necessary for the maintenance and the subsistence of this universe. No other unit in the universe need make an extraneous effort to try to maintain the universe. The universe functions on its own time scale, which is fixed by the energy of the complete whole. And when that schedule is completed, this temporary manifestation will be annihilated by the complete arrangement of the complete whole. All facilities are given to small complete units, namely the living beings, to enable them to realize the complete whole. All forms of incompleteness are experienced due to incomplete knowledge of the complete whole. The human form of life is a complete manifestation of the consciousness of the living being, and it is obtained after evolving through 8.4 million species of life in the cycle of birth and death. If in this human life of full consciousness, the living entity does not realize his completeness in relation to the complete whole, he loses the chance to realize his completeness and is again put into the evolutionary cycle by the law of material nature. Because we do not know that there is a complete arrangement in nature for our maintenance, we make efforts to utilize the resources of nature to create a so-called complete life of sense enjoyment. Because the living entity cannot enjoy the life of the senses without being dovetailed with the complete whole. The misleading life of sense enjoyment is illusion. The hand of a body is a complete unit, only as long as it is attached to the complete body. When the hand is severed from the body, it may appear like a hand, but it actually has the potencies of the hand. Similarly, beings are part and parcel of the complete whole. And if they are severed from the complete whole, the illusory representation of completeness cannot fully satisfy them. The completeness of human life can be realized only when one engages in the service of this complete whole. All the services in this world, whether social, political, communal, international, or even interplanetary, will remain incomplete until they are dovetailed with the complete whole. When everything is dovetailed with the complete whole, the attached parts and parcels also become complete in themselves. The personality of God is perfect and complete. And because He is completely perfect, all emanations from Him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself. Because He is complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from Him, He remains the complete balance. Lord Krishna explains in 15.7 Mamivam Sajiva Loki Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. This is why I'm coming. This verse 15.7 Anashashtani Indriyani Prakriti Sani Karshati. Yeah, 15.7. The Lord is explaining that all these jivas are my fragmental parts and parcels. Mama Ivam Shakti Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. All the living entities are eternal, as herein it is described as all these jivas, they are eternal complete units, small complete units, complete. But the Lord is explaining the miserable predicament of the jivas. This word. The Lord is saying that all of these jivas are my fragmental parts, they are eternal. But on this ground of Prakriti, material nature, they are struggling, miserably struggling with their mind and senses. Manashasthani indriya. They are struggling miserably. This very fact is elaborated or emphasized by Srila Prabhupada in the purport here. When Srila Prabhupada is explaining that all sorts of incompleteness are realized because of incomplete knowledge of the absolute complete. All forms of incompleteness are realized because of incomplete understanding of the absolute complete. So Prabhupada is explaining that the Supreme Lord is complete. The material nature, Prakriti, is complete because it has complete facilities for the maintenance of all the living entities. But then why are the living entities struggling? Because they are not connecting to the complete facility given by the Lord. They are not depending on the complete facility given by the Lord and artificially trying to create an illusory sense of completeness for themselves. And this illusory sense of completeness always is incomplete. Reality of this universe and cosmos is always complete. And if reality is complete, we have to understand side by side that illusion is always incomplete. Because by definition it is illusion. And illusion is always going to be incomplete. Why illusion is always going to be incomplete? Because it is illusion. We are real, and therefore we have real needs. And illusion is illusion. Illusion cannot satisfy real needs. Therefore, illusion is always incomplete. Illusion can give us simulation, but it can never give satisfaction. Just like one may close one's eyes and one may imagine that I am taking a big feast Mahaprasad. And even if one can maintain this kind of meditation for the next 8 hours, one may meditate, keep meditating for 8 hours that he is taking Mahaprasad feast, 50 items. Well, interesting thing is in meditation one can take any amount because it is virtual. And one can go on eating for the next 8 hours, no problem. But as time is passing by, what is going to happen is that the person is going to feel hungry. Although one is meditating on 50 item Mahaprasad feast, but person feel hungry. And if it goes on, person start feeling a bit weak. Some people start getting headache. Some people start feeling very weak. Although the full simulation is going on, but there is not an iota of satisfaction because the hunger is not satisfied. This is the nature of illusion. So illusion means no matter whatever we do, one will remain dissatisfied. That's the nature of illusion. So therefore, we have to understand Krishna's reality. Maya is illusion. Illusion is always incomplete. Therefore, whatever illusory plans and algorithms we have for our own life, they are never going to be complete. And whatever plans Krishna has given us, they will always be complete. That is why we can see living and walking and thriving on the plane of illusion is very disastrous. More we live on the illusory plane, more we will suffer. It doesn't matter what we do on the illusory plane. More we stay on the illusory plane, more we will suffer. Because we have real needs. Illusion cannot satisfy our real needs. So the stay in the plane of illusion itself is torturous and suffering. Only the living entity is not able to realize why they're suffering. But the intrinsically the suffering is because of staying on the illusory plane.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can you please
Yes.
pin your video?
Yes.
Can you please pin your video? Pin करो उसको.
I don't know how to. There's no option to pin. Setting is not there in the phone. So we're talking about the plane of illusion. So we see by definition the plane of illusion is incomplete. There is no question of any sense of satisfaction or satiation on the plane of illusion. This material world, with all material algorithms, is the plane of illusion. Therefore, and the principle, the tattva is that the more one stays on the plane of illusion, the more one will suffer. That is why the Lord is explaining. Manashashtani indriyani prakriti sthani karshati. Is struggling, foaming in the mouth, as Bhagavatam explains. In this pavarga, pa, pa, ba, ba, ma. A parishram with pain, lot of pain, but also with pain. And effort which is useless, vyarthata. Fully filled with fear, bhai, and ultimately mrityu. Therefore, there is another principle which we can see in this material world is that because this material world is illusory, although illusory manifestation may take a lot of time to make, but it can be destroyed in a in a time span of a femtosecond. It doesn't even take a femtosecond to destroy it because it is illusion. Illusion has no footing. Illusion has no reality. Like one is dreaming. One may be dreaming, oh, I have a very big empire. I'm the now one may be dreaming, I'm the emperor of India now, captured Afghanistan, Pakistan, everything, and I have gone up till Turkey and Saudi Arabia, and one may be just expanding and invading and expanding the last territories of Canada and America, and all of a sudden somebody does something, some blast happens, some bang happens, something falls off, in the house, and a lot of noise happens or something. Immediately one gets up. As soon as one get up, all one's empire, all one's territory, all one's powers, everything is finished. Doesn't even take a second, a femtosecond, what to say for second. Femtosecond is 10 to the power minus 14 seconds. Doesn't even take a femtosecond. Oh, I put so much efforts on capturing Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Turkey, and Saudi Arabia, and all that. Illusion is destroyed in a speck of a moment. The Mrityu is like that. Therefore, the characteristic of reality has to be understood. The characteristic of reality is reality can never be destroyed, no matter what. That is reality. Krishna is the eternal reality of the entire creation, whether spiritual or material. Right? Krishna can never be destroyed. God is God. He's always there. Where? Everywhere. There's not a single place in the entire creation, material or spiritual, where the Supreme Lord can be taken off. There's not a single place in the entire creation where the Lord is not present. Krishna is everywhere. This is called as reality. Similarly, Krishna's words are eternal. That means what? Eternally true. Doesn't matter what setting one is in. If one is in the medieval period where There is Muslim ruling, or in the British ruling, or now in the ruling India, the democratic ruling. Any ruling, the principles are the same. That is eternity. That is reality. And that which is illusion may take a long time to make it, but can be destroyed in a moment. Doesn't take a moment to destroy. So we need to understand, where are we putting our efforts for? Where are we allowing our consciousness to get absorbed and obsessed? The plane of illusion is very miserable. Like, say, for example, social media profiles. People take so much time and energy to create their social media profiles and influence. Then one may say, oh, I have these many followers on Facebook or on the Instagram or whatever, or Twitter and so on. To make those many followers, it may take a long time. Long time. Lot of efforts, lot of efforts. In 1 second, that account can be deleted. What to say of that account? That social media venture can be deleted in a day. Sometimes as a wave, something becomes very famous and then it goes off. The way it comes, the way it goes off. That's the nature of this world. So much efforts to make standing and footing on those grounds, illusory grounds, and in a flick of a second, it is just finished. So therefore, the question comes is, and why to put so much of time and energy and efforts in trying to make a standing in this material world on the illusory grounds? So waste of time. But the plane will only not be there. The plane will only not be there. There'll be no. So what will be recognized? All efforts are in futility. Therefore, work for reality. Don't work for illusion. So attraction to the energy of the Lord without the Lord is basically incomplete understanding of the Lord. So attraction to Maya Shakti is technically incomplete understanding of the Supreme Lord. The understanding quotient of the Supreme Lord very less, because one is just, when we are attracted to something, we take it as all in all. So when one is taking a temporary manifestation of Prakriti as all in all, getting attached to it, obsessed by it, kama, krodha, and so on. So that is also, that comes under the category of incomplete understanding of the Supreme Lord, because the Supreme Lord is present everywhere. Anna antarastha paramana antarastha. So that is why we can understand from the Tattva point of view that why does this material world give us a little bit film of thin, very transient sort of happiness? The reason for that is The reason for that is only one. The reason for that is that this material nature, this Prakriti, is based upon the Supreme Lord. Because the Supreme Lord is the foundation of the Prakriti. Therefore, any figment or any manifestation of Prakriti gives the person a temporary, transient drop of happiness. That drop is also coming because the Krishna is the basis of the entire Prakriti, because Krishna is Sutramani Gana Iva. And because Krishna is Sutramani Gana Iva, therefore that drop of happiness is also, is there also. Now, why only drop is there? Because everything else is illusion, just the basis is Krishna. The hidden latent basis is Krishna, therefore only a drop. So if you don't want a drop, you want the full crop. Then one has to drop engagements on the illusory plane. One has to stop engagements on the illusory. Till the time one is obsessed and engaged on the illusory plane, one will only experience a drop. That drop is also coming from Krishna. Illusion has nothing to offer us. Still we are engrossed in illusion. What an unfortunate calamity. Aho dukkham mahadukkham. What an unfortunate calamity. Dukkha dukkha. Kanchanvad Vishmitam Ratna. That reality is like the diamonds. And one is mistaking the diamond to be useless pieces of glass. What an unfortunate predicament. The diamond is there in front, one is treating it like useless broken pieces of glass. And useless pieces of glass one is running after. In fruit or in Falashruti, simply bleeding. That is why one has to stand for reality. One has to grab hold of reality, not illusion. So Srila Prabhupada is very powerfully explaining that how the living entities are complete units. But these complete units experience incompleteness because of not completely connecting to the complete whole. Because of incomplete connection, the experience is incomplete. So how can the complete experience incompleteness? Because of incomplete connection with the Supreme Lord. Because then Prabhupada is explaining that the point is that our completeness is dependent upon our connection to the Supreme Complete. Only Krishna is the independent complete. We are all dependent complete. And one who tries to pose oneself As independent, such a person experiences extreme misery in one's life. Only Krishna is the independent. Only Krishna is the Purusha. All others are Prakriti, dependent. And Prabhupada is giving a terrific example of a hand. A hand is complete, but only when it is connected to the body. When the hand is amputated from the body, the hand cannot do anything. Neither it will get nourishment, nor it can unleash its own potentiality. When the hand is connected to body, automatically it is nourished from all other parts of the body, and the hand can perform the functionality of its strength. But when it is amputated, it cannot do anything. It can only create fear and horror and terror in others' hearts. That's it. So we can see this very aspect becomes very nicely highlighted in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein we see Arjuna was trying to protect the queens of Dwaraka, Lord Krishna's queens, but he lost to infidel cowherdsmen. He couldn't protect them. Mind it, the same Arjuna was invincible on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And Arjuna himself was not able to, he could himself see how he became very powerless. But he could see why he became powerless also. Why he became powerless? Because Krishna is gone. He understood Krishna is gone. My strength was Krishna. So we can see when Lord Krishna departed, Arjuna was so much despondent. He was paralyzed. He was not able to do anything. And he's crying in pain and separation. But then Krishna kindled an inspiration in his heart. And Arjuna starts remembering the instructions given to him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra right in the Bhagavad Gita. And immediately it is explained, as soon as Arjuna came to that level of remembrance, immediately he found great strength within him. So immediately he found great strength. See, this is very beautiful because this goes to show that only in connection to Krishna we can feel empowerment and strength. He remembered the instructions of Krishna, so he could understand. Now, there is another important, very beautiful clause here which comes, and that is we can see now if we see Bhagavatam first canto, we will see Arjuna is remembering all the episodes of past tense of Krishna. Still, he is very despondent and he is not able to handle it. But when he remembers Bhagavad Gita, he becomes all right. He becomes charged up to do his service again and stand for the mission, Krishna's mission, not his own concocted mission. So the point was that now Arjuna so as long as Arjuna was just remembering Krishna's pastimes with him and Krishna's loving reciprocations with him, he was not having that strength. When he remembered Krishna's instructions for him, then he became all right. This goes to show that Shravanam Kirtanam Smaranam without service will be incomplete. When Shravanam Kirtanam Smaranam is accompanied by service, then it will be complete. Bhagavad Gita, the instructions of the Lord were a call for action for Arjuna. And so therefore, when Arjuna remembered those instructions, then he got a calling of action. That means he got a visibility into what he can do to serve and please Krishna now also. And when he got that clarity, then Arjuna's despondency was resolved. So this is Bhagavad Gita's call for action. That means it is basically the Lord is telling us how to mold ourselves, how to serve and please Krishna, what is in the heart of Krishna, how to give pleasure to Krishna. So when we read Bhagavad Gita, apply the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, we're actually serving Krishna through that. So therefore, the point is in following the instructions of Krishna, one can find purification of heart. Simply by following. This beautiful episode comes in first canto. Following instructions of Krishna. Yeah, one can find that connection to Krishna. I think it comes chapter 15. Let's see where this verse comes. So Arjuna is overwhelmed. He's remembering all the past times. It is 1:15:27. Deshakalarthayuktani vittaposamaani cha haranti smarataschitam govinda vihitan me. Now I am attracted to those instructions imparted to me by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Govinda because they are impregnated with instructions for relieving the burning heart in all circumstances of time and space. The Prabhupada is saying in the Bhagavad that here Arjuna refers to the instruction of the Bhagavad Gita, which was imparted to him by the Lord on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. The Lord left behind him the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, not for the benefit of Arjuna alone, but also for all time and in all lands. The Bhagavad Gita being spoken by the Supreme Personality of God is the essence of the Vedic wisdom. It is nicely presented by the Lord Himself for all who have very little time to go through the vast Vedic literature. Like Upanishads, Puranas, Vedanta Sutras, it is put within the study of the great historical epic Mahabharata, which was especially prepared for the lower class, namely the women and the laborers, and those who are worthless descendants of the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. Higher sections of Vaishyas. The problem which arose in the heart of Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra was solved by the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. Again, after the departure of the Lord from the vision of the earthly people, when Arjuna was face to face with being vanquished in his acquired power and prominence, he wanted to again remember the great teachings of Bhagavad Gita. To teach all the concerned that the Bhagavad Gita can be consulted in all the critical times. Not only for solace from all kinds of mental agonies, but also for the way out of great entanglements which may embarrass one in some critical hour. Yes. So not only solace. So you see, Bhagavad Gita, what it does, it can be consulted at all critical times. Not only for solace, it gives solace from all mental agonies, but also it gives the way out of the great entanglements which may embarrass one in some critical hour. The merciful Lord left behind him the great teachings of Gita so that one can take the instructions of the Lord even when he is not visible to material eyesight. Material senses cannot have any estimation of the Supreme Lord. But by his inconceivable power, the Lord incarnates himself to the sense perception of the conditioned souls. Thus, the Bhagavad Gita, any authentic sound representation of the Lord, is also incarnation of the Lord. There is no difference between sound representation of the Lord and the Lord Himself. One can derive the same benefit from Bhagavad Gita as Arjuna did in the personal presence of the Lord. So, the faithful human being who is desirous of being liberated from the clutches of material existence can very easily take advantage of Bhagavad Gita. With this view, the Lord instructed to Arjuna as if Arjuna were in need of it. In the Bhagavad Gita, five important factors of knowledge have been delineated pertaining to Supreme Lord, living being, nature, time and space, the process of activity. Out of these, the Supreme Lord and the living entity are qualitatively one. So the difference between the two has been analyzed as the difference between whole and part and parcel. Nature is inert matter displaying the interaction of the three different modes, and eternal time and eternal space, unlimited space, are considered to be beyond the existence. Activities of the living being are different varieties of aptitudes which can entrap or liberate the living being within and without the universe. All these subject matters are discussed in Bhagavad Gita and later elaborated into Bhagavatam for further enlightenment. So then he's saying that the Supreme Lord is the controller of all these five elements. Yeah. The material activity of the living being is beginningless. It can be rectified by transferring into the spirituality. Thus, it can cease its material qualitative reactions. So, the whole scheme of the Vedic wisdom is targeted to the aim of eradicating such a misconception and thus liberating the living being from the illusion of material identification. When such an illusion is eradicated by knowledge and renunciation, the living beings are responsible. So the sense of enjoyment in the Lord is real, but such a sense in the living being is a sort of wishful desire only. The difference in consciousness is the distinction of the two identities, namely the Lord and the living being. Otherwise, there is no difference between the Lord and the living being. The living being is therefore eternally one and different from simultaneously. The whole instruction of the Gita, Bhagavad Gita, stands on this principle. And the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord and the living entities are both described as another eternal. So we see the nature of this living entity. I mean, the nature of the connection to Krishna. Therefore, we will see Bhakti Yoga is not only nourishing, Bhakti Yoga is awakening. So the Jiva's soul has that potentiality of being satisfied in connection to Krishna, but it only requires a certain level of practice of Bhakti. So it's not just nourishing, it's awakening. Awakening of the absolute nature of the living entity. I mean, the absolute nature of the spirit soul. So therefore, we can see it is The yoga which pulls or drags a person, the living entity, towards this fulfillment. That is the point. See, prescribed duties of the human being, as directed in the Vedas, can gradually purify the sinful mind of the conditioned soul and raise him to the stage of knowledge. The purified stage of acquiring knowledge becomes the basis of devotional service of the Lord. As long as one is engaged in researching the solution to the problems in the life, his knowledge is called jnana. But on realizing the actual solution of life, one becomes situated in the devotional service of the Lord. As long as one is engaged. The Bhagavad Gita begins with the problems of life by describing the soul, discriminating the soul from the elements of matter, and proves by all reason and argument that the soul is irreducible. And that the outer covering of matter, the body and the mind, change for another term of material existence, which is full of miseries. The Bhagavad Gita is therefore meant. So therefore, one who remains steadfast in one's practices of bhakti simply by the steady performance of bhakti every single day, we can make ourselves immune to the allurements and provocations of mind. Therefore, under no circumstances should the sadhaka lower down one's momentum of service and connectivity. Because when you do that, it will become weak. The seventh canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 5, Prahlad Maharaj also speaks the same thing. The Prahlad Maharaj is telling. He's talking about family life, he's talking about material attachments, he's talking about how family life and material attachments are like a deep, dark well. And Prabhupada explains there that one cannot get out of a deep, dark well on one's own. Only if a rope is given by an outside person, and catching hold of that rope, one can come out. Prabhupada says that rope is the instructions of the spiritual master, instructions of the Lord, and that person outside spiritual master is pulling. Then Prahlad Maharaj explains that the Supreme Lord is everywhere in this creation. So therefore, to connect to the Supreme Lord is not very difficult because He is everywhere. So what is the meaning of connection? The connection is whatever we see it as belonging to Krishna. We are able to connect that to Krishna, offer it to Krishna. That is the meaning of connection. Isn't it? So he's explaining super soul is anywhere, everywhere. Krishna is everywhere. So it is not difficult to connect to Krishna. That means the to go to the complete is not difficult, but to remain incomplete is much more difficult. In this world, to go to the complete is not difficult, Prahlad Maharaj is explaining. Krishna is everywhere. The taste of water, the scent of the earth. Therefore, the Bhakti Yoga recommend the process of Shravana. So when we are doing Shravana, when we see different aspects of the world, one can immediately correlate it to Krishna. This is Krishna's hand behind. It's not difficult to connect to Krishna. So for the jiva to realize his completeness is not difficult. But for the jiva to maintain oneself being incomplete is much more difficult. Because illusion very difficult to gather and very easily destroyed. Because there is no solidity, it's illusion. Just like earth, when we take, say, a mold of earth and give it a shape, it will remain in that shape because it's solid. But liquid will not remain. We take liquid, give it a shape. As soon as we remove our hands, it falls off. As soon as we remove the container, it falls off. So we see that reality has its solidity. To connect to Krishna, to realize one's completeness is not difficult. Yeah, Arjuna was devastated of Krishna has left. Now immediately Arjuna is finding the strength. How he's connecting to Krishna. He's saying, okay, let me carry on Krishna's service. Krishna's instructions given to me. Let me live by those instructions. So he's getting a mission, he's getting a purpose. He's getting that connection. Transcendental connection. Therefore, the so when you connect to Krishna, there is no problem. Everything is Krishna. See, Shira Swami, his wife died. Immediately understood, okay, my wife is dead now. Now, okay, let me go and take sannyas. But she died, she left a very small child, and the infant child. Now, when he was looking at the infant child, he was getting anxiety. But what should I do about this child? What should I do about this child? But when he connected to Krishna, he could understand that, okay, let me serve Krishna. So Krishna can arrange much better facilities. Obviously, he saw that lizard, that baby lizard, just born. Immediately, that lizard took out the tongue and gobbled up the insect nearby. So he got that eureka realization. Hey, who taught this baby lizard how to survive? It's Krishna. So therefore, having faith in Krishna, he left his kutir. And within few minutes, a couple entered the kutir, hearing the cry of the child, and took up the child and took care of the child. They were roaming around all around to get the benediction and blessing so that they can get a child. They were not having a child, they were very desperate. And Krishna arranged and fulfilled both of their desires. So you see, dependence. When you depend on Krishna, it's complete. One may say, oh, like you see, child. So biologically, there may be some problem in their body or whatever, and they're not getting a child and all that. But they depended on Krishna. Krishna arranged a child for them. Whose child? Sridhar Swami's child. You see, Sridhar Swami's child. Sridhar Swami took sannyas. So when we depend on Krishna, there is completeness. All sorts of incompleteness are fulfilled when one connects to Krishna, when one depends on Krishna. Although misery and anxiety is so complex and so intense, but in the moment one can get rid of it simply by surrendering to Krishna, simply by connecting to Krishna. You see, so intense. So therefore, the, the point here is that one has to work for the eternal. One has to work for Krishna and not work on illusory grounds. Illusory grounds is very interesting because reality and illusion are and no, what is that? Antonyms or opposites of each other. So illusory grounds give illusory sense of happiness, but real sense of misery. This is illusion by definition. Illusion means illusory happiness, real misery. And reality means complete happiness, no misery. Still, people don't want to come to the plane of reality. They say, no, no, we have cooked our own algorithm of happiness. We have cooked our own algorithm of happiness. You see, illusory happiness, but real misery. And Krishna shelter, complete happiness, no misery. Like that. So therefore, work for reality. Don't work for illusion. Let's stop here for today. We'll take up text one tomorrow. This was just the invocation, and the text one we'll take it up tomorrow. Tomorrow 8 o'clock. Again, we can have. We'll continue with Śrī Īśopaniṣad. Yantra Śrī Īśopaniṣad ki jai. Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Hari Bol.
Question.
Oh, question. Yes.
Yeah. So, I messaged through that why in Upanishad when referring to Supreme, there's an when referring to Supreme, there is no the name of Krishna in its expansion, but Om is referred.
Correct. Uh, Yes, because yeah, that is a typical style of the Upanishads. That the Upanishads are just pointers towards transcendence. So why? Because the Vedas is a very the Vedas is an encyclopedia of confusion. Because the Vedas are giving solution to so many material flavors, and every material flavor has a solution, and it is supposed to be Vedic umbrella, and it is supposed to be somewhat spiritual. So exploring the trajectories of the Vedas, one can get thoroughly confused. What is spiritual? What is material? Because it is catering to all levels of consciousness. And most of these Vedas, now if you see Rig, Yajur, Sam, and Atharva Veda, most of it is having the Karmakanda algorithms. And that is thoroughly confusing. Why? Because what is spiritual, what is material, one will get a complete loss of understanding. So therefore, Vedic forest complete confusion and bewilderment. So that is why now in that context, now see everything is in that context. Now why Vedas are like that? They are like that because people have materialistic mentality and they are not ready to come to Krishna. Therefore, the Vedas are giving all sorts of material algorithms and karma kanda. Now, the person who is following that gets the material desire fulfilled and feels and has a very feel good feeling. That feel good effect is there. Why? Because the person is feeling I'm following the Vedas. So I'm also spiritual. So like that. So the material desires are getting now in the spiritual, the material desires are getting there is provision to fulfill the material, and it is the context of spiritual working for material, like that. Among this, in this whole setup, what Srila Vyasadeva has done is that uh, very intelligently he has planted seeds of transcendence. So these 108 sections of Upanishads within the four Vedas, they are very intelligently planted because the living entity intoxicated and addicted to materialism uh, finds the codes of materialism in the spiritual literature and in the realms of spirituality, and not only gets material desires fulfilled but also gets a feel that I am also spiritual types, like that. And like this roaming around, that living entity candidate, he touches upon or he encounters upon the Upanishads. So you see, in general, the living entity would have been very difficult for such a mentality to come to Krishna. Like the other day, one gentleman came. So he was telling, "Arey, my son is getting very much becoming very spoiled and all that, and we are very much worried. He doesn't practice spirituality, and they were very pious and devoted. Both of them, husband wife, elderly. Uh, I said, it's not practicing, and he doesn't study also. Not worried about career, not worried about life, not worried about character, not worried about anything. So you please talk to him. No. He said, okay, we can try. And he said, but there is a statutory warning. What is the statutory warning? Don't mention the name Krishna at all. As soon as you mention Krishna, he'll run away. No? Don't mention. No? Give him spirituality without mentioning spirituality. Then the father started telling me a story that there were two fellows, children, and they would hate studies. They would never go to school. There was not a single fellow, not a single teacher who could teach them. They were like rugged fellows. They cannot be taught. Something like Jada Bharat breed, But Jada is intrinsically all knowledgeable. These fellows are intrinsically ignorant, like that. So they cannot be taught. So then one fellow tuition teacher came. He said, "Okay, no problem. I will take it up like that." So he told his children that okay, we'll not study. We'll just go around for a picnic and roam around, have a nice time. They said, "Oh, picnic, very nice. We'll go. Good teacher." So they were driving here and there, taking selfies, having a nice time, like that. And so they were experiencing seeing wildlife, having a nice time and all that. And then that teacher was telling the children, "Hey, look there, how many deers are there?" They said, "Oh, there are certain number of deers." And then he said, "Hey, look there, another place, how many deers are there?" And they gave an answer. And then he said, "Okay, so how much total? This way, that way. So then they started calculating. Then the smaller one of the child, he said, "Hey, danger, danger." So what is the danger? This fellow started teaching us maths. So he boy got like that. So this is the disease of the living entity actually. Therefore, the Upanishads are not mentioning any direct. Because if they mention the direct, the people will leave it. So if mention the direct, they will leave it. So what basically happens is that by mistake, the living entity, steps on, or grabs up, because the living entity is grabbing material things, the materially intoxicated fellow, and he grabs on Upanishads. And Upanishads are speaking something which the person not able to realize. But he starts following it a little bit, then one can get experience. That experience can create awakening. That is the whole purpose of the Vedas. I mean, that is the whole no, purpose why the Upanishadic language, this is embedded. I'm not say, don't work for illusion, work for reality. So it makes to be very appealing. Okay, incomplete understanding of the complete. I am also complete. Let me become complete. It's a very nice way of saying. Let me become a devotee, surrender to Krishna, work for Krishna's pleasure. Those words seem to be very heavy, but this seems to be very nice. Oh, let me realize my own completeness. I am complete, but I have to realize my completeness. Okay, let me complete the reading. And they completely read it, like that. So they'll get purified by that. That is the whole point. When they start experiencing a little bit a real transcendence, then they that way they are getting prepared. So they will not fall off. The attrition will be lesser. So because, but from the point of view of Bhakti Gyan, all this is word jugglery. That is where Vyasadeva was chastised by Narad Muni. Vyasadeva was chastised by Narad Muni. He said, "What are you doing? Simply confusing people, cheating people, nothing else. You give direct. That is for those who can take it up. For those who are intoxicated, Vyasadeva gave an algorithm for them. So that's why it's indirect, because directly person cannot take it up, like that. It works. May say where it works. Many of our preaching is like that. When we go out to the colleges, if you say I'm from ISKCON, they'll say no, not sorry sir, I'm not interested. You say no, we are not from ISKCON. We are a multinational youth club. What is that? Whatever, like that. In KJP we have a new name every year. And before the year ends, only everybody forgets the name. So during the year, I ask, okay, what is the name of our club? Nobody remembers. And everybody scratching their head, hey, what club and all that. But it works, no? So we don't say, okay, we'll have a class on Hare Krishna. Let us have a class on Hare Krishna. We say, no, art of self-management. The same Vyasadeva approach. But do people chant Hare Krishna? Coming to self-management and art of mind control and all that. and discover yourself, inner self, outer self, like that. So one session, two session, four session down the line, then they start chanting. Then they don't mind. But in the title only we say, okay, let us have a class on Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Sai Chan, Gochan, Bhagwan ki, Jai Shri Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra, Sudarshan, Srila Prabhupada ki. Initially only we start saying Hare Krishna, let us have a class on Hare Krishna. Today's title will be Hare Krishna. Nobody will turn up for that seminar. So that is the point. In the West, they also do book distribution also like that only. They are talking all jank bang things to develop relationship. Then they say, oh, this is a book on yoga. Why don't you take it? No. They said, okay, I don't mind taking it. But then devotees, no, they were teaching us. They said, okay, don't. No. So I was no, here when we have a book table, we show like this, with very, hey, Gita, 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 like that. Like that is shown the West, they will, see Gita, Gita, like that, they will run away, They will not come 20 meters close also. I say, hey, this is, something there. So they said, no, keep the books behind, like that. Keep the book behind, like that. And then just go and talk, hey, hi, the other hand is the book on the other side, at the behind, like that. Hi, how are you, this, that, whatever, yo, yeah, like that. And then some relationship is, now what is being talked about is nothing. I mean, it is all, little bit. And as soon as, that connection is made, immediately say, oh, I have a book of yoga. And what do we speak about Gita? Nothing is a book of yoga, it can help, try it out. Bas, 1 minute, the person takes it. We may say, oh, here the Bhakti Tattva is explained and the Krishna Prem one will get and all that. Nobody will take it like that. So that's why Upanishads have their own very unique and beautiful flavor. It's a preaching strategy. Make sense?
Yes, bro. Thank you.
Okay, Hari Bol. Shri Prabhupada ki jai.